The Walt Disney Company has two attractions opening in 2024, and they both are Tiana's Bayou Adventure. The one at Magic Kingdom opened and has had trouble ever since it started. We thought that the new version of the attraction at Disneyland would be free of some of those problems, perhaps thinking that it was originally designed for Disneyland. But no, in fact, the designers of the ride on their first run-through got stuck and had to be exited off the attraction. Let's talk about what went wrong here on That Park Place. We need to talk about the fact that Disney cannot get any of their rides correct. It's starting to go from being a slump to being a tradition.
Yes, an absolutely tradition indeed. Oh boy. Here we go from That Park Place from Marvin Montanaro. Thank you so much for writing this. And by the way, I contributed to this article. We will get into that in just a moment. I also want to thank Chris W. Or at Fried Rich TW on Twitter for helping us out with this article, and also AWM Trends contributed bigly to this article. Here we go. Tiana's Bayou Adventure opening at Disneyland is a familiar disaster for Disney. November 16th, 2024. Tiana's Bayou Adventure had its grand opening at Disneyland yesterday, and much like its Walt Disney World rollout, the West Coast debut of Splash Mountain's replacement was plagued by endless technical issues that left the attraction down for most of the day. Never mind the fact that this new water-based attraction opened in November on a day that saw temperatures peak at 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Fantastic. Get me soaked. This is wonderful. The biggest issue facing the attraction's West Coast debut was, again, extended downtimes that saw the long-awaited log flume down for more than 7 hours on its first day of operation. Yeah, it didn't even open on time, Jonas. It actually didn't open until the park opens at, I think, 8 or 9, depending on the day. I can't remember on that day specifically, but from what I understand, it didn't open until about noon that day. So already off to a fantastic start for this attraction. According to sources in the park, the attraction was down for the first 3.5 hours of the day. Disney then got the new ride working, only to have it break down again for another extended period. Now, this is eerily similar to Tiana's Bayou Adventure's opening in Orlando this summer, where the attraction suffered from massive delays and downtime that often left riders stranded and in need of evacuation. Many hoped that Disney would learn from its mistakes over the last several months and implement changes to prevent another Tiana Titanic. But alas, it seems as though the history is doomed to repeat itself at the happiest place on Earth. Now, this one, this opening here, the disaster was compounded because guess what, Jonas? Everybody was in attendance. Do you remember this this video right here, Jonas?
Oh,
do you remember this video?
Is that her? Is she still wearing a mask on November?
She's still wearing a mask, and she's right there.
Of 2024? Oh my.
Yes, absolutely. She was there, and well, guess what? Sharita Carter, the attraction project lead, she was also there. So everybody was in attendance. Everybody was, feeling their holiday best right here. Unfortunately, it didn't go quite as swimmingly. Adding insult to injury was the presence of Sharita Carter, the project leader on Tiana's Bayou Adventure. The Imagineer attempted to ride the attraction on its official opening day at Disneyland, and her big project broke down before she ever left the station. Oh boy.
Awful. That's just awful. I mean, okay. One thing I need to say about the lady in the mask. It could be that she has some kind of disease that requires her to wear a mask, or she may have mental illness that makes her feel safer while wearing a mask. And you can all read into that exactly what you want to read into it. I pretty much can predict how the chat feels like we're hinting there. But Sharita Carter, when we talked about her originally on this project, we talked about her as the guiding light on this project, and that she was brought in, and then she was the I don't want to say veteran necessarily, but someone who has more experience in Imagineering, has a little bit more bona fides than, say, Carmen Smith. No comment on Ted Robledo, but I am hearing that he will be moving on to other projects that won't be affecting the United States parks in the same way. That's a rumor that I can't get more specific about just yet. But Sharita Carter, I feel like this project has not been one that has served her career interests well.
Yes. Yeah, I do believe it hasn't been a great reflection on her career or her talents. She's done some interesting stuff in the past, stuff that I've liked a lot, actually. Her work on Indiana Jones, which really kind of propelled her career as as part of somebody who would enhance attractions and add projection effects and so forth. That was really, really good. I actually like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now, I understand, great movie ride. There's a debate there. I understand what that debate is, but I do like the attraction. So to have her be part of this project, I think a lot of people were optimistic that it would be done very, very well. And unfortunately, it was not for multiple reasons. One, the fact that, there's a lot of blank space and the story is not that strong and everything like that. But also, too, the downtime with this attraction has just really earned it a very a bad reputation that unfortunately plagued her as well. They were eventually able to send her log, but very soon after, Disney evacuated the whole ride with her on it. Yeah, so initially it was shut down for only being open for 90 minutes on opening day. Yes, her log got sent. Yes, it got stuck. So the attraction broke down with her at the station for a length of time, and then immediately after they got that log sent, they had to evacuate with her on it. From what I understand, too, I was talking to AWM Trends about this, who was actually there in person, who saw this whole incident, and he was saying that they also had a handicapped guests with them, so that evacuation, I'm sure, wasn't as smooth.
Well, she probably didn't have DAS based off of the new way that they do DAS out at Disneyland. So
that's a fair point. This is eerily reminiscent of an incident that happened at Walt Disney World during the press and professionals preview for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We talked about how Jennifer Lewis was stopped on her log on opening day, and they had to, sing and do this kind of merry time there in order to make up for the lost time that that was occurring on that attraction. There's no word on whether Carter attempted to get others to join in song during the extended downtime yesterday. Another embarrassing moment for the House of Mouse. This is amazing, Jonas. It seems as though Disney grossly overestimated demand for Tiana's Bayou Adventure merchandise. The company set up a massive queue area for the debut merch with 10 registers and 18 switchbacks. However, this was the crowd at 4 p.m. on opening day. Give you a larger version of these images right here.
Oh, that's a lot of tape right there.
That is a lot of tape. This was actually set up in Tomorrowland, so on the complete opposite side of the park, in this kind of flex space that they have. This used to be the old arcade or Starcade. Now it's been converted into this space where they held private events, sometimes public events, sometimes Magic Key specific events, and so forth. They were setting this up for all the merchandise that would absolutely be sold as part of the opening for this attraction. And you can see the demand that was there on that day. Pretty embarrassing, Jonas. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I get it that they wanted to make a change, and this is really the fruits of a really bad environment within the company in 2020. They'd obviously looked at retheming Splash Mountain. They've always got something, and it was funny. My wife found out today while trying to put something on for the kids that she found out that Lady and the Tramp has a content warning on it today. Which there are lots of those on Disney Plus right now. Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp, Dumbo has a content warning on it. I do believe they have an entire section of the Stories Matter website in which they actually list the original Splash Mountain and the Tiana's Bayou Adventure retheme as an initiative of the Stories Matter group. So when we say that the internal sensitivity readers within the company specifically came after Splash Mountain, that is a matter of record for the Walt Disney Company. Also, the fact that when they said that they were going to redo the ride, it was in the middle of the Summer of Love in 2020, and Bob Chapek, wanted to be an ally and do better for the community. And when he says the community, he's mixing two completely different groups together, one based off their orientation, another based off of their race. But they wanted to conflate everything together here as a group. So I hate to say that this will always be associated with racial grievance, this ride. And there's this backstory of Splash Mountain that if you knew that it was based off of Song of the South, even though the words Song of the South and Uncle Remus never appear in any of the attractions that they have, at least in the United States. I haven't been through the Tokyo queue, but they had something that they cut out all the problematic parts in the same way that they are trying to cut out the problematic parts of Peter Pan by replacing the Native Americans with the Neverland tribe and taking the cartoonish grown-up savages that Peter Pan has in the movie and replacing them with a grandmother and a quote unquote noble savage. I'm not actually calling people savages. I'm talking about the portrayal in the original J.M. Barrie novels. So this is something they're okay doing with the things they're making a lot of money on, the things they're actively merchandising. But Song of the South, even though they've cut it out, they want to do Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and they took a ride that functioned perfectly fine, a perfectly acceptable level for a Disney park, and was well liked and was many people's favorite ride. And the statistics bear that out when we look at customer surveys. And they wanted to replace it with this so they could get a little bit more merchandise money, and so that they could do what's the best way to put it? They could have something else to cater to a very specific part of the audience, which does not include small children, because this ride does not allow for small children. So this entire thing, start to finish, makes no real sense. And they've put the touch of modern Imagineering on it, which means that it doesn't work. So to me, this entire Tiana's Bayou Adventure thing, which sucked up all of the oxygen for doing all of the funding, I should say, for making something better in the park, it went to this. And so they have basically 2 rides coming out this year. Both of them are Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Both of them are replacing something that worked just fine until they got their hands on it. And this is a complete failure for the company, in my opinion. No one cares about this ride other than the people who are actively going to the park to find the new thing at a Disney park. So this could have been literally anything going to the park, and it doesn't matter at all.
And this will be a reflection of WDI's and Disney's creative output for years, because like you said, Jonas, we're only getting 2 rides this year, and we're not getting any rides for the next couple of years until they start turbocharging the parks officially. It's going to be a long time. And so this stain, I think, will stay with Walt Disney Imagineering for quite some time, and just reflects poorly on Disney. You talked about the racial grievances as part of this attraction. You had the Guardian come out saying, look, Disneyland debuts its first ride to celebrate a black princess. It's about time. And it's like, historically, Disney hadn't been so quick to add attractions based on any of the princesses. I believe The Little Mermaid, for example, that movie came out in 1989, and the ride didn't debut until 2011. That was about 22 years before she saw her debut in ride form. Also, too, like Tangled, for example, that's part of Fantasy Springs. It's the first Tangled ride to actually make it to a Disney park. Well, that movie didn't come out until, 2010, I believe? So about 14 years. This is about 15 years after Princess and the Frog debuted. That's about the average that these things go. I think Frozen's the only notable exception where you had a ride come out like 3 years after the movie, but that movie was absolutely massive. So to try to turn this into an issue as well, I think is pretty appalling. But I mean, just constant downtime for this attraction, and this is carried on. So it didn't just plague this opening day. It has happened every single subsequent day. Just lengths of downtime, 3 hours, 5 hours in the opening day, 7 hours. They're closing it early, by the way, too, so they're not even keeping it to park close. Park usually closes at about midnight or 11 p.m. on some days. They're closing it at 10, which is most unfortunate, especially for all those who want to ride this attraction, who have actually come down to Disneyland specifically for this attraction. Well, now your hours of available operation have gone down precipitously. So it's just it's a disaster from stem to stern. This thing, and we're probably going to talk about this on 2-3PO Live, by the way, just the kind of comparisons between like the ride that was here previously in the form of Splash Mountain, and comparing the work output to what they eventually reimagined this ride into being. It's just, it's really sad, Jonas. It really is sad, because Imagineering, it was always about making things better. It was always about improving what was there before. If you were going to make a change, make it a creative change,
right,
and make it spectacular. That can't be said for this attraction.
I'll throw in here, because I always like to remind people that they got rid of Song of the South because it took place in an era when people confused what was going on for slavery. It was not about slavery. It was post-Reconstruction era. It was the rebuilding of the American South after the slaves had been freed. But they wanted to get away from all of that connotation of slavery. And so they set this ride on Avery Island. And there are references in the ride specifically to Avery Island, which was a notorious slave site in New Orleans, also where Tabasco originally had a huge level of production. And, if they were really looking into the history of Avery Island, they would know about those horrific things that happened there. And these are the kind of signs that they've got going in the queue. Remember, salt mines are reserved for seasoned veterans. So I don't think that they're really being sensitive to what's going on here. This is actually, in the cosmic sense of the word, this is hilarious that they put this in the ride. I'm not offended that they put this in the ride. I think that it just shows that they really don't actually care. They just want to look like they're caring. In the words of Elon Musk, they want to say that they're doing good things while doing evil things. It's really the entire situation is embarrassing for the whole of the Walt Disney Company. And again, going back to it, Tiana deserves her own attraction.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.